There are a number of candy bars that were quite popular back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, no longer being made. And this was the reason they were popular basically is because of the hype that the manufacturer made for the bar. And my favorite was the chicken dinner candy bar that was made in Milwaukee by the Sperry Candy Company. And the chicken dinner, for some reason, chicken dinner meant, right after World War I, was kind of a symbol for if you had a one good meal a day, this symbolized that you were well off. And so a chicken dinner, say a roasted chicken, if you had one meal with a roasted chicken, that was a sign you were well off. And as a result, the term chicken dinner in the Jewish families, for example, you had chicken soup, but in the candy business, it became the chicken dinner candy bar. That bar, by the way, it tasted very much like a Baby Ruth today or a O. Henry bar. It was a nut roll covered with chocolate on the outside. And that particular bar, the manufacturer, the Sperry Candy Company, they had a fleet of Model A trucks that delivered their candies throughout the Midwest. And they had a monstrous sheet metal mock-up of an actual chicken that rode on the body of that truck. So you saw a whole bunch of chickens zooming around the streets. And that was their advertising campaign, was a whole chicken. The original bar wrapper actually had a roasted chicken, belly side up, legs sticking up in the air, on a plate, and that was on the front of the bar wrapper. For some reason, however, chicken didn't have a connotation of something that tasted sweet, so they very quickly took that off the wrapper. They kept the name, however, but they took the chicken off the plate and took the plate out, so the name stuck, and so it was kind of a fun thing. The Baby Ruth bar, that didn't have a funny name, but the way that was introduced to the public was through a sky drop. Otto Schneering, the president of the company, he leased a fleet of airplanes. Back in those days, they were monoplanes or biplanes, and they dropped by parachute Baby Ruth candy bars all over the city of Pittsburgh, and so that caught the people's attention when they saw a squadron of candy bars zooming out of the sky toward them. And that particular incident was repeated in about 40 other major cities. And that was the national start of real advertising in terms of candy bars. Well, there was a famous caramel sucker that was around back in the 90s. It's still made today in the Midwest. And as kids, we used to buy one of these suckers and suck on it for actually a week's time. It was about a 4-ounce sucker bar. And we would go out and play some baseball, then take a lick or two off of our suckers, put it back in the wrapper, and stick it in our back pockets. And we'd carry around our back pockets intermittently all week long. And it was made by the Holloway Candy Company at the time. That was a great sucker for that reason. Back in the 30s, there were also some manufacturers who suggested that you stick, we didn't have freezers back in those days, but you stuck a candy bar in the cooler or in the refrigerator on which you had a block of ice to cool it off. And before you put it in there, you could put a popsicle stick into the bar. And after it got harder, then you could kind of eat it for a long period of time. Back in the 40s in New York City, street vendors would sell Milky Way bars from their ice cream trucks. And they would stick the Milky Way bar into right next to the dry ice. So they really were hard. And so you could eat those off of a stick also. You have to be quite careful when you eat bars. Actually, the one I think is the most dangerous, perhaps, is the caramel, because it can not only break your teeth, but it can also suck out your any fillings that you might have in your teeth. So yeah, actually, it's much better just to kind of lick on a caramel sucker, for example. It was not an unusual name, but it was called a 7-Up bar, and it was spelled SEVEN-UP. That's the same name as a bottling company, but the bottling company has a different name. They use the numeral 7 numeral 7 and then the UP. So 7 Up in a different way. The candy bar was around before the bottling company was. And the 7 Up candy bar was a very famous bar because it had 7 different sections that were connected and encoded with chocolate. And over the years, there were about 20 to 25 different kinds of centers that that particular bar had. When the 7 Up bottling company became well known, they attempted to buy the name of the candy bar. And eventually, they did take over the bar, and so about 2 years ago, they retired the candy bar. Another bar that's called the Sky Bar, which is still around today, that was started and came out first in the 1930s. And it was introduced to the public by a skywriting campaign. And airplanes skywrote the name Sky Bar in metropolitan areas before the bar was even on the marketplace. And so people wondered, what the heck is this thing that this airplane is riding up there? And what's a Sky Bar? So when the bar came out and was introduced in the marketplace, it really caught on. And it was a bar that has 4 different centers also that's chocolate connected. You will find the nationally advertised bars. Those are the ones that are near the top. But throughout the country, you will find regional bars that are quite popular. In the South, for example, in Nashville, Tennessee, you have the Goo Goo Bar, which is quite popular. In the West Coast, there's a bar called the Mountain Bar, made by the Brown and Haley Candy Company up in Tacoma, Washington. That's popular. The Baffle Bar, that was made in San Francisco, that was a very very popular bar for many, many years. The Uno Bar, that's still being made today on the West Coast. That had that has a milk chocolate outside and a kind of a soft, almost a truffle-like center, and that's very popular. So throughout the country, you will find nationally advertised brands, the better sellers, simply because they're nationally advertised. But throughout the country, you'll also find regional bars that are quite popular. The best-selling bar that's been around, it's been the best-selling bar for maybe 10 years now, is a Snickers bar. For some reason, throughout the American taste for candy will vary from in different parts of the country. There are pockets of dark chocolate lovers in the Boston area, in New York City, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is especially strong. They go for a European chocolate. The European chocolate is a finer ground chocolate. It has a smoother taste than the American chocolate. And for some reason, the American taste buds have been attuned to the Hershey bar because that's been around so long. And so that you will find a bar that has milk chocolate on the outside, has a combination of either a nut, like peanuts or pecans or almonds, something like that, and a center of marshmallow or caramel or nougat. And those are the favorite flavors of the United States. So the Snickers bar has milk chocolate, it has peanuts, it has caramel, and it has a peanut-flavored nougat in the center. And so that's the most popular bar in the United States.